Welcome everybody to the final study advisory committee meeting for the Ballston Spa Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan. So we're excited to have reached this point in the process with a product that I think was basically well received from the advisory committee as well as from the members of the public that were able to both attend the meeting and provide comments on the website during the overall process. So generally speaking, I figured we'd keep today pretty informal and just have a brief discussion about how the meeting went as far as that public meeting went, and then kind of pop through a couple of the changes that occurred to the report as a result of the actual meeting itself. So I think, again, generally speaking, the plan was well received and consistent with overall recommendations that have been heard in the community over the last several years, especially with respect to sidewalks and kind of getting that connection to the Zinn Smith Trail itself. The polls that Kathy put up throughout the presentation, I think, were also, again, pretty consistent of things that had been heard throughout the last couple of years: the importance of the sidewalks, the importance of the safe connections, and just being the people who are speaking are pretty consistent about what they're looking for in the village itself. Like I said, it was generally well received. A few comments that came out of the process itself that kind of added a little bit to it, or added a little bit, sorry, I'm seeing someone adding into the lobby, the presentation here, were questions about things that were more going on the west side of the study area. For instance, the intersection of West High Street with Ballston Ave, where the DOT was going to be doing a review at that intersection. And one question had been whether maybe we should add additional sidewalk through there, because there's already kind of a desire path, like you can see a trail through, but that was already included in a different recommendation as far as providing sidewalks in the study area itself. So I don't know if Jacob or Kathy or Liz have any comments about how you think things were received, but like I said, I thought the project in general was well received by the members of the public that were able to attend the public meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to agree. I think a couple of the comments that stuck out to me, I remember hearing folks, and it was seemed to be more like in that northwest corner of the village, that more or less were asking, why the study area was developed the way it was, which was just a scope and budget. But I actually think that the plan, if that comes up further or down the road, we do include that kind of spot treatment section that was intended to be a village wide. And I think some of the changes that we've kind of made indicate that in the plan. So if you were to read through it, it's like, these are village wide recommendations. And then kind of like the bigger corridor specific recommendations are, more focused in that central business district. But yeah, I think it was a lot of the same, and seemingly supportive of what we've put out.
Right. Good. Mm-hmm. That's great. So then, kind of that said, the finalized plan, or the updated plan, clearly not the final version yet since it has markups in it at this point, did include those updates from the public meeting and kind of went from there. So I'm just going to, at this point, go ahead and share my screen, and we can kind of walk through some of those adjustments that were made. At that point, though, I think if there are no other comments from the study advisory committee, that we would look to be finalizing the plan itself. get the final plan on the project website, along with some of the meeting summaries and whatnot that I have been remiss as far as getting those posted and up. So those will go in as well. And we'll be able to say that this is a final plan that the village can then take forward and use as a planning document to implement many of these recommendations. So let me just share the screen. Yeah.
Could I just ask, what do most municipalities do? I mean, do they formally adopt the report, or, you know, because that, you know, does that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know about most, but definitely in the past, we've seen it kind of adopted or addressed at, you know, a town council meeting or a city council meeting where it's acknowledged. And, you know, I guess I'm not 100% sure on the level of adoption that's always taken in each case, but it's typically addressed and, you know, talked about and acknowledged as, you know, an official town or, you know, municipal support is voiced, you know, so that in the future, that's kind of on the record as, you know, the direction that the village is choosing to go in. So it is typically, you know, brought
Adopted.
to, yeah, in some way, but like not typically through a presentation or it, you know, that can be in certain instances, but a lot of times it's, you know, the members or, you know, whether it's the study advisory committee, like brings it to the board or, you know, the council, whoever's in charge.
Okay, well, I don't know that there may be a desire to have a, you know, shorter presentation of the, you know, key recommendations. You know, need to check with the mayor on that, but that might be desired. You know, usually if at village meetings, we keep any kind of presentations to no more than like 15 minutes, just to, you know, get it a little wider, you know, distribution to the public during an official meeting. So,
Right.
So that, you know, I can then talk to the mayor and see, you know, the other trustees if that's, you know, usually Christine is on this committee, so, but I don't think she's on today. So I could talk with her and let you know.
Okay.
You know, and, you know, we should go out with the, you know, press release as well, that it's been finalized, you know.
Absolutely. Right. And directing folks, right to that link back to the project website, just to get some more traffic on it for sure.
Yeah, so folks can take a look at it. It's sort of like what we did with the economic development plan, although they had an actual ceremony outside, but that happened in the summer, so it wouldn't be as practical now.
Not quite, yeah. We'll keep ourselves a little warm and toasty inside, I think, so.
Yeah.
So again, I believe everybody can see my screen at this point, that is sharing kind of where the changes to the document really started happening between the public meeting and this final draft plan. Generally, it's the addition of the information from the public meeting itself. And then some changes to the language and discussion of the recommendations themselves. So for instance, high visibility crosswalks really became an important topic during the public meeting itself, that there are some locations where we really want to emphasize that there is a crossing occurring. So during the polling, the high visibility crosswalks were really identified as an important feature to implement in certain places throughout the village itself. Additionally, there had been questions from the advisory committee, and I think it also came up during the public meeting about if the Zim Smith Trail connections happen, like what is the best order for this to happen in, and what is kind of the steps of making that happen. So there's a section here that kind of clarifies how that would be implemented in a step-by-step process to make that formal connection from the Zim Smith Trail to the parking lot on Malta Avenue. It also mentions there as a kind of a sub bullet, I suppose, that while full funding may take a while to get for something like, this longer connection, the connection can still be formalized with some wayfinding signage to continue that direction of getting visitors from the Zim Smith Trail to the downtown area. So it doesn't have to be the full project all at once. It can be done in steps.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend doing some Shero symbols? That by the way, they're still there. They haven't worn off yet.
Apparently that wasn't quite as temporary paint as we were led to believe there, but Sheros, if you can, with the adjacent landowner, so especially like on East High Street itself, where it's a county road, getting the confirmation from the county that that's an okay thing to do with the wayfinding, it would be a better way to demarcate that this is the connection to the downtown than just the signing.
Yeah.
Or the signage, excuse me.
Yeah, we'd have to talk to, I don't know, East High, is that a county road or is that Ballston? I mean, outside the village, I'm trying to remember.
I think you're right. I think it is town. I'm getting my signals crossed off with Malta Ave.
Right. Yeah, Malta is county.
Yeah, I think East High is town for the short bit between,
Yes.
Yeah,
right after the village.
that might not be so difficult to, accomplish.
It is nice to have partners that you can work with, for sure. Also of note, I think, is the site distance evaluation at the Ballston Ave West High Street intersection that we had discussed at our last study advisory committee meeting, that DOT is currently in the process of taking a look at this one. So it's almost one that hopefully can just be checkmarked off the list with a nice, good feature for the intersection or recommendation for the intersection.
I think though that they're looking at more the road and the site distances, etc. And there is a sidewalk gap on that corner property. The path beaten through the field actually cuts right across the lot, so you couldn't do that unless the landowner wanted to give us the lot, but I doubt that would happen. But some way to do a pedestrian sidewalk, frankly, because there are sidewalks on either side of that lot, so that people coming up Ballston Ave or going down West High can traverse that
right
corner.
And one of the recommendations in the study is really to make sure that there is a sidewalk from that general area to the county building. So that really is included as far as a sidewalk in that area itself.
But what I was talking about was even just that corner to have a continual sidewalk there. Eventually, the desire is to extend a sidewalk down to the county building, but that's, as you remarked, I think during the public meeting, that's a little bit more difficult because of the gutter.
Yeah, grades are definitely an issue on that section of West High.
Yeah.
I'm new to this.
Yes.
I'm new to this format.
Hi, Foreman. How are you?
Fine. I've been trying to say something for a long time, and I don't know if, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I find the route in this plan, I have strong disagreement with. First and foremost, why would you direct commerce to the village past the site that the Navy training station uses to transfer radioactive waste from one truck to another, whatever? That's where Grove Street ends, and they have screened off part of that portion. It seems to me one of the first places in the village to take newcomers to. Now, maybe the screening thing that's taken down or something, but I look at it and I say, why not direct people all the way along High Street? I think it's Low Street into Roosevelt Park. You don't need to direct them to a parking lot. Bicycles don't need a parking lot. They just need a place to tie up their bike. And Roosevelt Park is, for me, one of the center of the city. I find this route for bicyclists from the bike trail uh, uh, doesn't make any sense at all. That was one of my concerns. And the second concern I had was how much this study cost and what percent of the costs were shared with the village. That's a question. Can anybody answer that for me?
Did you hear him?
I heard pieces of it, so I want to just repeat what you said and make sure that it's accurate. So generally, the first question was, why is the route being taken down near where the Navy is doing their work with the waste? Right. So that was the first question: is why the radioactive waste? That was the first question. The second question was, why not just direct bicyclist traffic directly down High Street into the village center? And the third question was essentially the cost of the different plan recommendations. So I think I'm going to kind of start at the beginning there and answer some of these questions that the committee has been grappling with since the beginning of the project, which was essentially, how do we provide a safe route from the end of the Zone Smith Trail into a space within the village where pedestrians and bicyclists would have a space to, essentially park your bike, right? Someplace to park your bike, and then also to engage with the rest of the community at that location and, visit the businesses and whatnot. And the first, while East High Street or High Street itself is the more direct connection into the village center, it's two things about it. First, when it's not the safest route into the village, just because of the speeds and the width of the roadway, which is why rather than going along East High Street, or one of the reasons, rather than going along East High Street, we're recommending going more into the neighborhoods and along slower traffic, lower volume roadways. So that's the first piece of why that connection as opposed to East High Street. The second part of that is actually, if you come in on East High Street, the first thing that you do is kind of, in order to get to some of the shops within the village, is go down the hill, as opposed to being kind of on a more level grade in order to access the various shops, restaurants, and whatnot. And it is good to have a place to actually put your bicycle when you're off the trail. And there is bicycle parking at the Malta Ave parking lot itself right now. So that's actually why that particular route was recommended in this study, as opposed to going down East High Street, where the space and the speeds just don't make it as a good, it's not as good of an option as going into the neighborhood itself. So then the second piece of that, I think I answered about the route and the High Street. And then the costs are actually shown within the report itself under here on table 8, gives relative cost, construction cost for the various pieces of the recommendations themselves. Typically, for a federally funded project, should a project be able to obtain a grant in order to implement funding, the public contribution is a 20% contribution of the construction cost is the typical public cost, but that often also gets offset by a different grant or a different funding source. So the public cost can be less than the 20%. I think I answered everything. Kathy, do you think I got everything? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, very good. Um,
I believe Foreman's still talking though.
I
although
think so
he's
too.
muted.
Norman, I think you're muted.
You're still muted.
Can you hit your unmute button? There we go.
When it comes to the route, just pick your poison. You can get in a traffic accident or you can be exposed to radioactivity, or it's not. To be honest, I don't know how much that there's there. And the second is I still don't know the dollar cost to the village of this study. 20% of what?
I'm sorry, the cost of this study to
Yeah.
the village?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that answer. I'm sorry.
I can let you know the total value of the study with the consultant's fees, the time for, that CDTC put in, and the matched time that the village put in, was valued at about 90,000, and the village put in 15,000 to do this study. And that was, voted on, I think, in 2019 by the board. Unanimously, by the way.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Liz.
And just one thing to mention, if you've been reading the papers about the money coming out of Washington, what is it? Infrastructure Improvement and Jobs Act. I guess about half of it or even more is for transportation projects. And so there'll, be additional funding, coming in the next years for projects like this.
Yeah, and I'll chime in there, right? We don't have a lot of information yet on how much that's all going to trickle down to us, but there certainly will be more and new transportation funding. And it's actually called, Liz, now they've recently changed it, I think of last week, the bipartisan infrastructure law. The bill is what it's being called now. So
IIJA,
same legislation, different abbreviation. So
okay, I have to correct that.
It might be different next week. So
Just to kind of wrap up the changes to the written document itself, there weren't that many based upon the public comments. I think just really the confirmation of, especially as noted in the meeting summary that will go in one of the appendices, the confirmation of the sidewalks and the need for the safe crossings. And then kind of updating some of the text with greater clarification. There's certainly some typos and some grammar errors that need to be worked out as well. But for the most part, the document didn't have very many changes. So I don't know if any members of the advisory committee or kind of the technical committee had any comments or thoughts, things that we should make sure are included or not included, but it seemed like it was a pretty straightforward and relatively well-received plan.
Just one thing on your table 9 potential project funding, can you slip in something about this new source? Even if you don't have details, but I think it would be, useful that somebody referencing this could see that money is, will be coming up.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think maybe the way we do that is to add a note here. So what we'll do then is add notes about great. And instead of putting it in the table, just because we don't have that much information about it, I think it will deserve its own blurb or paragraph in that that general area.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I think that makes sense to do it in the narrative. Because I think ultimately a lot of that will come down in the existing areas that we have listed in that table, and it'll just be channeled through, but there may also be new programs that we don't know about yet. So, but yeah, I think narrative is the best way to handle that.
Great. That is what we will do. Kind of thought this might be a quick meeting because just because the committee has been very involved throughout the entire process. So there wasn't a lot of new information that was gained. It was more a consensus building and confirmation. And then also, you know, there certainly were some direct comments received to be included in the meeting summaries, but nothing that really changed the overall results and findings of the plan.
Alana, I had a few questions. I've got some comments that I'm going to send over to you, but I just figured I'd quickly ask them now as well.
Sure.
So number one, on the project cost list, the ADA transition plan, I had been meaning to get you a cost for that.
Mhm.
So I kind of took some budget estimates that we have from like our internal ADA assistance program.
Yep.
Is the 90,000 that you have there, is that kind of like what it would be fully on the private sector? Because I guess we could use either or. I was, you know, based on what I found, it looked like maybe around 30,000. But if that's what, you know, if it'd be 90,000 kind of at the full market value, then maybe that would be the better costs to have in there, and then just know that CDTC has assistance.
Yeah, so that number was really kind of the ones I was receiving from different folks in VHB, but we
Okay.
also do stuff that is in different areas of the country where it might not quite be, it might be a bit more expensive. So I can double check down on that number as well and compare it with you, Jacob, because we don't want to scare anyone away from a project or a plan, but we also want to be realistic. So.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, ours would be a caveat. It's what it seems to cost when it's through, you know, our specific program, which is
Yep.
likely going to be cheaper than. So I don't know. I think maybe it's up to Liz or the village to.
Yeah, I'd like to.
We could have the higher value and always know that, you know, maybe it's an asterisk and a note that CDTC could provide, you know, a cheaper option.
Yeah, I mean, that's you know, these projects are listed in priority, right? So, you know, like to explore, you know, what would be entailed in an ADA transition plan and, you know, how we could pay for it.
Okay. And then there was just two other ones that I noted the costs went up for number 3 and number 8. I don't, was that just you did some more digging and revised and that's fine. I just noticed that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, the other thing is the short term, you know, coordinating on the Route 50 crossing. That'll be something I think we'll want to follow up on, you know, with you to see how we do that, because that has been a area of interest for quite a while.
Okay. Great. Are there any other comments or thoughts that anyone wanted to bring to the rest of the group here?
Hi, this is Nathan Ward. I think you might have mentioned this, but last time I checked the website, not all of the video meetings were on the website.
Yeah,
And I was just wondering if that was going to be updated.
it will. Yes, very soon, as a matter of fact.
All right, great. Thanks.
So we plan to keep the website active for a while yet, but close down the interactive map portion of it. Just because we'll really be checking it at the conclusion of this study, but the information will still be available.
Is there any way to, I don't know, incorporate parts of that website into the village website, or maybe just having the report available to people?
I mean, we could certainly provide you all of the materials that went up so that like say the meeting summaries and the reference documents and all those kinds of things you can have and post as whichever pieces you feel are more desired.
Right. No, I just meant as we move forward, people might want to see some of that, material. And so we could park it in, a separate page or something on the website. Might be a good idea.
If the website's going to stay up, I think if we just put a link on our Ballston Spa Village, Ballston Spa website and just direct them there, unless the website's going to go down eventually in the near future or in the future.
Yeah, I think that's the plan, is it's not going to stay up forever.
Right. All right, quiet group today.
Christmas.
I think it says it's Friday afternoon, but it's not. It's Tuesday. We still have much of the week left to go, but maybe we're all starting to get kind of the holiday fun brain going on. I know I certainly am. So with that said, Liz or Jacob, do you have anything that you want to add, or Kathy, prior to kind of closing the meeting?
No, any of our other SAC members want to make any comments? Got a few on here.
I mean, I will just say, I guess as far as for wrapping everything up, like I said, I've got a couple comments that I was going to send over to Alana, and then I think if we maybe incorporate those final, button everything up, and then send to the SAC for just one final kind of 2-week or a week-long review of, what the final changes, and then maybe we can talk and see if it'll go to the village board or whatnot. But just we'll see the final document one last time with appendices for one last look.
Sounds good.
Give us something to do between Christmas and New Year's.
Right, with all the free time that I'm sure everyone will have. That's what you want to do after Christmas dinner, right?
Yeah, read a report.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you all. This has been a good committee to work with. It's been nice to I guess see all your lovely faces on Zoom here as we do our thing, or Teams, whichever platform we're at. Thank you. We appreciate all of your input and feedback and comments and time that you've been putting in to make this something that the village is able to really use in the future.
Well, I'd like to thank you, VHB, and Kathy Ember and Planning for Places for your roles. I think you did a great job, and hope to work with you folks in the future on project potentially. And and Jacob, of course, has been the steerer, the captain of the ship, and has steered us in the right direction. So hope to work with CDTC as well in the future to do some of these implementations, because the last thing you want to do is a big report and just have it sit on a shelf. You want to implement it.
Exactly. No dust collectors. Definitely use it.
That's right. Hopefully we'll tag onto this as soon as possible. And that's very nice of you, Liz, but I was just making sure that the consultants were doing what they're doing, and they didn't make me have to drop the hammer at all. So no need to
That's
thank
enough.
me. They made my job very easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Thank everyone on the committee and our consultant team as well. Everything seemed to go very smoothly in this project, despite kind of kicking off right in the heart of COVID. So
Mhm.
I thought, all things considered, moved along pretty well. So thank you.
I think
Thanks again.
we're ahead of the schedule on some of the other projects that kicked off the same time, right?
Yeah, there was whether it was COVID or some of our staff turnover, we're like maybe a full year ahead. So
Hey, you
so we're
got
in good shape.
that's got to be worth a gold star somewhere.
We
We'll
can
it
put that
front
on
cover,
the
Liz.
we can put a little gold star on the report,
Yeah.
the cover page.
All right. Well, thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. Get some time off. Enjoy their family.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.